Dialogue. Dialogue is a literary term for two or more characters speaking in a piece of writing. Dialogue represents the words a character says during a conversation. "I'm sure I heard a noise," Amy whispered. See how the dialogue represents the words that Amy would say out loud if she was talking to you. Dialogue is used to show the reader when a character is speaking. When writing fiction that is not a play, quotation marks are used to indicate the start and end of the character's speech. "I didn't hear anything," John said. See how the quotation marks surround the words "I didn't hear anything." They show the start and end of the words that John has said. You can also use dialogue to show a character's traits. As indirect characterization, dialogue shows the reader something about a character's personality. Dialogue tags are used to indicate how a character says the words. They come after the quotation marks. "I'm going to find him," Mark sobbed. See how the word sobbed in the dialogue tag helps us to understand something about Mark's personality and the way he is feeling about the person who is lost. Dialogue tags also show the reader who is speaking. When more than one character is speaking, dialogue tags help the reader understand who is doing the talking. "You're crazy to go back there," Janet cried. "I don't care, I have to go," Mark stated. In the dialogue tags, the names Janet and Mark help us to understand that there are two different people speaking. Paragraphs also help a reader understand who is speaking. In addition to using dialogue tags, change paragraphs to represent each speaker. Look at this passage from Rick Riordan's The Lightning Thief. Notice how he uses paragraphs to represent each time someone new is speaking. First, Mr. Brunner speaks. "Yes," Mr. Brunner said, obviously not satisfied, "and he did this because..." Then the main character Percy speaks. "Well, I racked my brain to remember. Kronos was the king god and..." Mr. Brunner speaks again and a new paragraph begins. "God?" Mr. Brunner asked. When Percy responds, Rick Riordan changes paragraphs again. "Titan, I corrected myself. And he didn't trust his kids who were the gods. So, Kronos ate them, right? But his wife hid baby Zeus and gave Kronos a rock to eat instead. And later when Zeus grew up, he tricked his dad, Kronos, into barfing up his brothers and sisters and..." "Ew," said one of the girls behind me. A new speaker is introduced, and so a new paragraph is also created. "And so there was this big fight between the gods and the Titans," I continued, "and the gods won." This ends with Percy speaking, and once again, Riordan changes paragraphs. Notice that these paragraphs are very different lengths. Sometimes a character might speak for a long time, others, he or she might only say one word. Either way, you would begin a new paragraph if a new person begins talking. Sometimes it can be difficult punctuating several sentences spoken by the same character. When writing several sentences spoken by the same character, quotation marks go in front of the first word and at the end of the last line. This way, you know when the character starts talking and when the character finishes. In this passage, also by Rick Riordan, you can see the way he uses quotation marks to show us all the words the character is speaking. "I don't care what you remember, son of the sea god. I can smell Medusa's blood on you. It's faint, yes, several years old, but you were the last one to defeat her. She still has not returned from Tartarus. It's your fault." The closed quotation marks show us where she ends speaking, and the opening quotation marks indicated where she started. Using quotation marks when dialogue tags break up the character's word can also be sticky. Sometimes dialogue tags fall in between the character's words. Use start quotation marks in front of the first word and end before the dialogue tag. Put a new quotation mark to show when the character begins speaking again. Look at this example. It will show you how to punctuate when dialogue tags break up the character's words. Begin with the open quotation marks. I'm so angry with her I could just scream, and close the quotation marks. Follow with the dialogue tag. Jessica fumed. Notice how right now it's pretty much the way you would write any sentence of dialogue. When Jessica continues speaking, begin with another quotation mark. I trusted her not to tell anyone, and the first chance she got, she blabbed to everyone. There's an exclamation point to show that that's the end of her thought, and then you close the quotation marks. When writing dialogue, follow the same rules as you would writing sentences. Capitalize the first word if the dialogue begins a sentence. If the dialogue is a complete thought and ends a sentence, use a period or whatever punctuation is appropriate. Punctuation for the dialogue goes inside the quotation marks. Dialogue tags also need punctuation because they are a complete thought. Now this may seem like a lot to remember, but don't worry. You can also use the dialogue reference sheet when you're in the classroom as you practice writing dialogue. And at home, you can review this video anytime you're not sure and need a refresher.